The acting performances in the 1979 miniseries adaptation of Salem's Lot are a key element in its enduring success as a horror classic. If the 2024 adaptation is to be a success, it must have all the elements that I am going to cover in this video. If you enjoy Salem's Lot and are excited for the upcoming adaptation, subscribe to the channel. Only real Salem's Lot fans subscribe to my channel. Enough of that. Let's delve into the topic of acting performances and how they affect the outcome of the adaptations. If the 2024 version is to be any good, it must have these elements that we are going to cover in this video for the main characters of the novel. Directed by Toby Hooper, the film features a cast of seasoned actors who bring depth and believability to the characters, effectively grounding the supernatural horror in a relatable human experience. Here's an analysis of some of the standout performances in Salem's Lot. The first character is David Soul as Ben Mears. David Soul, best known at the time for his role in Starsky and Hutch, plays the lead character, Ben Mears, a novelist who returns to his childhood home of Jerusalem's Lot. Soul's portrayal of Ben is understated yet powerful, embodying the everyman hero who's drawn back to face his past and the horrors lurking in the town. His complexity and vulnerability. Soul brings a sense of vulnerability to Ben Mears, making him a relatable and sympathetic protagonist. His performance captures the character's haunted past, particularly in scenes where Ben confronts his memories of the Marston house. Soul effectively conveys Ben's internal struggle between fear and determination, making his journey compelling as he evolves from a man searching for closure to a determined vampire hunter. His subtle heroism. Unlike the more overtly heroic characters often found in horror, Soul's Ben Mears is more introspective and cautious. This subtle approach makes his eventual confrontation with the forces of evil more impactful, as the audience witnesses his quiet resolve turn into decisive action. Character number 2 is James Mason as Richard Straker. James Mason delivers a standout performance as Richard Straker, the sophisticated and sinister human servant of the vampire Kurt Barlow. Mason, with his distinguished screen presence, brings a layer of class and menace to the role, making Straker one of the most memorable characters in the miniseries. His eloquent menace. Mason's portrayal of Straker is marked by a chilling calmness and precision. His refined demeanor contrasts sharply with the evil he represents, making his character all the more unsettling. Mason's ability to deliver lines with a polite, almost charming tone, while underlying them with a sense of threat, adds to the character's complexity. Straker is not a mere henchman. He is a man of intelligence and purpose, fully aware of the dark forces he serves. Another attribute is his commanding presence. Throughout the miniseries, Mason dominates his scenes with a quiet authority, whether he is overseeing the delivery of Barlow's coffin or confronting Ben Mears and Mark Petri. His performance elevates the character from a mere villain to an embodiment of ancient, malevolent power. Character 3 is Bonnie Bedelia as Susan Norton. Bonnie Bedelia plays Susan Norton, Ben Mears' love interest, and one of the town's residents who becomes entangled in the unfolding horror. Bedelia's performance is marked by a warmth and sincerity that makes Susan a relatable and tragic figure. Her innocence and strength. Bedelia portrays Susan as a character with a blend of innocence and quiet strength. Her relationship with Ben adds a personal stake to the story, as their budding romance is overshadowed by the looming threat of the vampires. Bedelia's ability to convey Susan's curiosity, fear, and eventual determination to stand by Ben adds emotional depth to the narrative. Her tragic foreshadowing. Bedelia's performance effectively foreshadows Susan's tragic fate. She infuses the character with a sense of hope and optimism that makes her eventual turn into a vampire all the more heartbreaking. The contrast between Susan's initial vibrancy and her later undead form highlights the horror of the town's corruption and the personal cost of the battle against evil. Character number 4 is Lance Kerwin as Mark Petri. Lance Kerwin plays Mark Petri, who has keen interest in monsters and horror, who becomes a crucial ally in the fight against the vampires. Kerwin's performance is one of the highlights of the miniseries, as he brings a sense of intelligence, bravery, and youthful determination to the role, his resourcefulness and courage. Mark Petri is one of the most resourceful characters in the story, and Kerwin's performance captures this perfectly. Despite his age, Mark demonstrates a deep understanding of the supernatural and a courage that belies his years. Kerwin effectively portrays Mark as a character who is not only capable of confronting the vampires, but also one who understands the gravity of the situation better than many of the adults around him. His character's emotional depth. Kerwin's portrayal of Mark also includes moments of vulnerability, particularly in the scenes involving the death of his parents and his struggle to process the horrors he witnesses. These moments add depth to his character, making Mark more than just a monster hunter. The fifth character is Reggie Nalder as Kurt Barlow. Reggie Nalder's portrayal of Kurt Barlow, the ancient vampire, is one of the most terrifying aspects of the miniseries. Though Barlow has no lines and is largely silent throughout the film, Nalder's performance relies heavily on physicality and presence to convey the character's monstrous nature, his physical terror. Nalder, with the aid of heavy makeup, transforms Barlow into a nightmarish figure that is more beast than man. His portrayal is defined by sudden violent movements and an almost animalistic approach to the role. The combination of Nalder's physical performance and the makeup effects creates a character that is visually horrifying and viscerally intimidating. His silent menace. Despite not speaking, Nalder's Barlow communicates volumes through his actions and expressions. His silent, looming presence is enough to instill fear in both characters and the audience, making him one of the most memorable vampire villains in horror history. The decision to portray Barlow as a primal, almost feral creature contrasts sharply with the suave, aristocratic vampires of other films, making his menace feel raw and uncontrollable. The supporting cast is our next focus. The supporting cast of Salem's also contributes significantly to the miniseries' impact. Characters like George DeZunza's Charlie Rhodes, Jeffrey Lewis as Mike Ryerson, and Lou Ayres as Jason Burke bring a sense of authenticity to the town's residents. Their performances help to flesh out the community of Jerusalem's lot, making the town's descent into horror all the more tragic and relatable. Jeffrey Lewis as Mike Ryerson. Lewis's portrayal of Mike Ryerson, a gravedigger who becomes one of the first victims of Barlow, is particularly haunting. His transformation from a jovial, somewhat simple man into a lifeless, soulless vampire is a powerful depiction of the horror spreading through the town. Lewis's performance in the scene where he confronts Jason Burke in his home is especially chilling, as he balances between his former humanity and his new, undead nature. In conclusion, the acting performances in Salem's Lot are a cornerstone of the miniseries' enduring appeal. David Soul's introspective heroism, James Mason's elegant menace, Bonnie Bedelia's tragic warmth, Lance Kerwin's courageous resourcefulness, and Reggie Nalder's terrifying physicality all contribute to creating a richly textured horror narrative. The cast's ability to ground the supernatural horror in believable, relatable human emotions ensures that Salem's remains a benchmark for effective horror storytelling, where the strength of the performances enhances the impact of the terror that unfolds.